Hello and welcome to Top Story. This week, more than 2 million Muslim pilgrims converge on Mecca in Saudi Arabia to fulfill the Hajj, the week-long spiritual journey that every adult Muslim has to undertake at least once in their life if they can afford it and are physically able. They come from all over the world, often at great personal expense, for an event that demands stamina as well as faith. The Hajj puts massive strain on the ability of the Saudi authorities to cope. Last year passed off relatively peacefully, but thousands have died over the last decade alone. German engineers asked by the Saudi authorities to resolve the problem of safety once and for all have described it as the biggest pedestrian problem in the world. How do you fit millions of people speaking dozens of different languages into 3 square kilometers and ensure their health and safety? Well, joining me now to try to answer that and other questions is François Géret, President of the French Institute of Strategic Analysis. Thanks very much for being on Top Story. The Saudi authorities have been saying they're going to do something about this for a long time now, but have they actually really got down to solving the problem this time?
I mean, there are so many problems to solve that it is clear that it needs some time to achieve that goal. First of all, it is clear that the pilgrims have to get more space during their walk. For years, for decades, they had to use a very narrow path and tunnels. And so the crowd is so important that there is, let's say, physical pressure from body to body, and at the same time there is an incredible heat just coming from the crowd in a very narrow space. So it creates all the conditions which put at risk a normal human being.
And I suppose even with the best will in the world, when you have millions of people converging on a very small space, you can't guarantee their safety.
No, probably it's impossible. And but in addition, we have, yes, the problem of safety, but we have also the problem of security, which is quite a bit different, and which has also to address the fact that the authorities should be able to intervene at any time in order to avoid a clash between the pilgrims themselves.
Well, you mentioned that, the possibility of clashes between the pilgrims themselves, and there are growing tensions within the Muslim world between the Shia and the Sunni communities.
Well,
is there a danger of that sort of clash between sects?
Well, it is clear that there is, well, the Hajj, the pilgrimage, should be a period of peace and of solidarity among the Muslims. But so many sects are coming from different areas all over the world, and they don't speak the same language. They don't have the same manners. The notion of courtesy is different from an area to another one. So you have not only political or religious risk of tensions, but you have just, let's say, a problem of good manners between people who have in common to be Muslims, but who are totally different in the way they behave.
There will be hundreds of thousands of pilgrims probably from Iraq. Is that likely to be a factor, do you think, this year?
Well, it is certainly a major concern, and in two areas, Iraq on the one hand, Iran on the other hand, are potentially origins of danger of, well, risk of tension. Having said that, the Iranian president being there is also a signal of goodwill, a signal which is sent to the Saudis that there is no longer this competition between the two countries, and it is a signal of, let's say, peace and arrangement between two countries which have been quite recently at odds.
You think that was a deliberate gesture on the part of the Saudi authorities to invite President Ahmadinejad? Because it's the first time an Iranian leader has been on the Hajj.
It is true. At the same time, it is the third visit of Ahmadinejad in Saudi Arabia. That means that the relation at the diplomatic level has become more and more important. And yes, clearly it's a symbolic gesture from the Saudis in the direction of Shiite Iran.
But already there have been groups of Iranian Shiites demonstrating, carrying anti-American slogans, for instance. Is there a danger still of politicizing the event?
Yes, there is always a danger. But my sense is that during this specific pilgrimage, the Iranians will try to avoid any source of, let's say, provocation or any source. The political environment is quite different, and I doubt that the Iranian would like to use anti-American slogans or even anti-Israeli slogans on this occasion.
You mentioned a moment or two ago the language problem. It really is a very, very difficult problem for the Saudi authorities to resolve. It compounds the logistic difficulties that they have. Hundreds of different languages spoken. How do you get your instructions through to all these people when they don't speak your language?
Well, there is an organization which is in charge of translation into the main languages. Probably not all of them, but they take into account the major languages and the major components in the Muslim world. For instance, Indonesian. And I think that at this precise moment, there is always a possibility to give the same indication to most of the people. Probably one of the elements is illiteracy. And that means that many people are not capable to read a written statement. That's also a problem.
I'm going to have to stop you there, I'm afraid. We've run out of time. Thanks to our guest, François Géret. Join us again tomorrow for another edition of Top Story. Goodbye.